What happens when your stepbrother steals the inheritance at a funeral and gets exposed in court? I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but honestly, I don't even know where else to put these feelings. Maybe someone out there has gone through something similar, because right now I feel like I'm living in a bad soap opera. So, some context, my stepbrother John and I have never exactly been close. He's way older than me, always kind of carried himself like he was better than everyone else. But since my dad married his mom when I was a kid, we've been a family. The quotation marks are intentional because that man has never acted like I mattered. Fast forward to last week, we were all gathered at my grandfather's funeral. My grandpa was the only person who never treated me differently for being a stepkid. He sent me cookies when my mom was being strict, always asked me about school, and made me feel seen. Losing him already felt like the floor got pulled out from under me. The funeral itself was tense. We were in this old stone church my grandpa used to attend, everyone dressed in black, and the air felt heavy. My grandma sat in the front row crying silently while my mom squeezed her hand. John showed up late, of course, with his expensive watch glinting like he was at some business event instead of a funeral. He hugged people like it was some networking opportunity. After the service, we all went back to my grandma's house for food. That's where things really started unraveling. I overheard my Uncle Peter talking in the kitchen with my mom. He said, "I can't believe John already had the papers signed. Your father would roll in his grave if he knew." I froze. Papers? What papers? I crept a little closer, pretending to refill my drink. My mom whispered, "Jessica doesn't know yet. Please don't say anything in front of her today." But of course, I already knew enough. My stomach twisted, and I went straight to the living room where John was sipping whiskey like he owned the place. "John," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What papers did you sign?" He smirked like he was amused. "Curiosity kills the cat, Jess. You should leave grown-up matters to the adults." My cousin Mia, who was sitting nearby, raised her eyebrows. "That's shady as hell. Just answer." John sighed dramatically and leaned back in the chair. "Fine, Grandpa's estate. I had the will updated before he passed. He wanted me to manage things, make sure the family assets don't get wasted." I felt my chest tighten. "Updated? Grandpa never said anything about that to me. He promised me I'd have a piece of the land for college." John shrugged. "Promises don't mean anything if they're not in writing, and now they're not." I swear the room went dead silent. Even my grandma stopped crying for a second. My uncle stormed in, face red, and shouted, "You manipulated him when he was sick, didn't you?" And that's when I realized this wasn't just some misunderstanding. This was a full-on betrayal. The second my Uncle Peter said those words, it was like a bomb went off in the living room. Everyone started talking over each other, shouting, gasping, demanding answers. My grandma gripped her rosary so tightly her knuckles went white. John, of course, didn't even flinch. He swilled his whiskey like some villain in a movie and said, "Manipulated, please. I was the only one who actually cared about handling things properly. While the rest of you were too busy squabbling, I made sure Grandpa's affairs were in order." "Order?" My mom snapped. "You tricked him when he was barely lucid. He was on medication half the time. He didn't even know what day it was." My chest was burning. I stepped closer, fists clenched. "He trusted you, John, and you stole from him, from all of us." For the first time, John looked at me directly. His smirk vanished for a second, replaced with something colder. "Don't talk about things you don't understand. Jessica, you're just a kid. Grandpa knew I was the only one responsible enough to protect the family's wealth. Do you think he'd leave anything in the hands of a teenager?" Mia suddenly stood up, voice shaking with anger. "Cut the crap, John. You've always been obsessed with money. You're not protecting anyone, you're hoarding it, and now you're trying to rewrite history to make yourself look noble." Uncle Peter slammed his hand on the table so hard that the glasses rattled. "I'm calling the lawyer first thing tomorrow. If you coerced Dad into changing his will when he wasn't of sound mind, that's fraud." The word fraud hung in the air. My grandma let out a sharp sob, whispering, "How could you do this to your grandfather?" John leaned forward, lowering his voice but making sure everyone heard. "I did it because I knew the rest of you would squander it. Grandpa agreed with me. You can fight all you want, but the documents are signed, notarized, and erte. The estate is mine to manage now." I felt like I couldn't breathe. My whole body was shaking, but I forced the words out. "You disgust me." Grandpa believed in family, not in greed. He wanted me to go to college without debt. He wanted me to be able to start her bakery. He wanted Uncle Peter to have the cabin he built with him. You ripped all of that away. The room fell silent again, except for my grandma's quiet crying. My mom walked over to John, her eyes blazing. "If you think for 1 second we're going to roll over and let you get away with this, you're wrong. You've declared war on this family, John, and believe me, we'll fight." John just raised his glass and muttered, "Then let the best man win." That was the moment I realized this wasn't going to end at the funeral. This betrayal was going to rip us apart, and I wasn't sure our family would ever recover. The next morning, the house felt like a war zone. People were whispering in corners, phones were buzzing non-stop, and no one was really eating the leftovers from the funeral. I barely slept, my mind replaying John's smug face over and over. Uncle Peter was already on the phone with Grandpa's lawyer when I came downstairs. His voice was sharp, controlled, but I could hear the anger simmering underneath. "Yes, I need to see the will, the most recent version, and I want to know exactly when it was signed and under what conditions." When he hung up, he looked at me and Mia, who were sitting at the kitchen table. We were right, the will was changed just 2 months ago while Dad was in the hospital. Mia's jaw dropped. 2 months ago, he could barely hold a pen. Uncle Peter nodded grimly. Which means John had helped someone push those papers through, knowing full well Dad wasn't capable of making that kind of decision. That was when Mom came in, her face pale. It was Marion. Everyone froze. Marion, John's biological mother and my stepmom. My heart sank. Mom's voice cracked as she explained. She was with Dad almost every day in the hospital. She handled the nurses, the doctors, the paperwork. If John wanted something signed, she could have slipped it in without anyone noticing. I felt sick. I wanted to believe Marion wasn't part of this, but deep down, it made sense. She's always favored John, always treated him like the golden boy. Mia slammed her fist on the table. So what do we do now? Just sit back and let them steal everything? Uncle Peter shook his head. No, we can test it, but it's going to be ugly. That afternoon, we all gathered in the living room again. Grandma was sitting in Grandpa's old recliner, holding one of his sweaters like it was the only thing keeping her together. I sat beside her, holding her hand. John walked in like he owned the place. Marion trailed behind him, calm as ever, like she wasn't standing in the middle of a family she'd just helped tear apart. Peter didn't waste a second. We know the will was changed in the hospital. That's manipulation, and you both know it. John smirked. You can throw around accusations all you want, but you'll never prove anything. Dad signed it willingly. He wanted me to handle things. Marion's voice was smooth, almost rehearsed. Your father trusted John. He was tired of carrying the burden. He wanted someone competent to ensure the estate wasn't squandered. I couldn't hold back anymore. My voice cracked as I shouted, "Stop lying. Grandpa told me that he wanted us all to share. He wanted me to have the orchard land for college. Are you saying he lied to my face?" For the first time, Marion hesitated. Just for a second. And in that hesitation, I saw the truth she knew. The silence was thick until Grandma whispered, almost too quietly, "Your grandfather would never do this. You forced him." And just like that, the line was drawn. This wasn't just inheritance anymore, it was war between two sides of the family. The days after that confrontation felt surreal. Everyone was tense, waiting for the next blow. Uncle Peter was already setting up meetings with the lawyer. Mia was scouring through old documents, and I couldn't shake the feeling that Grandpa had left us something. Some kind of clue. He wasn't the type of man to just roll over and let himself be manipulated. One night, while everyone else was downstairs arguing strategy, I slipped into Grandpa's study. The room still smelled faintly of pipe tobacco and leather, like time had stopped the moment he passed. His big oak desk was cluttered with papers, but I noticed the bottom drawer was locked. Grandpa always kept his personal things in there. I grabbed the spare key from the little porcelain bowl on the shelf. He used to joke that hiding the key in plain sight was the best hiding spot. My hands were trembling as I unlocked the drawer. Inside, there were neatly stacked envelopes, an old fountain pen, and most importantly, a sealed letter with my name on it. My heart pounded as I sat in his chair and opened it. The handwriting was shaky, but definitely his. "Jessica, if you're reading this, it means I didn't get the chance to say everything I wanted. There are people around me who don't have the family's best interests at heart. If anyone tries to tell you I changed my mind about your future, don't believe them. The land is yours when the time is right. Fight for it, and remember I trust you." I burst into tears right there, clutching the letter like it was a lifeline. Grandpa knew. He saw what was happening and tried to warn me. I ran downstairs, waving the letter. "Everyone look at this." They all went silent as I read it aloud. My mom covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Uncle Peter muttered, "Janet, Daddy, you knew." But before we could even process the hope this letter gave us, John and Marion walked in. "What's this?" John sneered, reaching for the paper. I yanked it back. "Don't touch it. Grandpa wrote this to me. He knew what you were doing." Marion's eyes narrowed. "Hand it over, Jessica. That letter isn't legal. It won't hold up in court." "It doesn't matter if it's legal," I shot back, voice shaking but strong. "It's proof that Grandpa never wanted you to have control, proof that you manipulated him." Mia stepped in, her arms crossed. "And it's proof for the lawyer. They need to see this." John's face went red, and for the first time he lost his composure. "You think a scrap of paper will change anything? You're pathetic, all of you. Grandpa trusted me, that's what matters." But I saw the flicker of panic in his eyes. He knew the letter could ruin him. That was the moment I realized we had leverage. And for the first time since the funeral, I felt like maybe, just maybe, we had a fighting chance. The official reading of the will felt like walking into a battlefield. Our family lawyer, Mr. Grant, had called everyone into his office downtown. It was one of those old law firms with dark wood paneling, leather chairs, and the smell of stale coffee lingering in the air. I sat between my mom and Uncle Peter, clutching Grandpa's letter so tightly the paper was wrinkling. Across from us, John lounged like he was about to close a business deal, Marion sitting stiffly beside him. Mia leaned forward in her chair, ready to explode the second he opened his mouth. Mr. Grant adjusted his glasses and began reading. The earlier version of the will, dated 3 years ago, was straightforward. The land divided fairly among the family, money set aside for my college, a portion for Mia's bakery plans, and the cabin going to Uncle Peter. Everything Grandpa had always told us. Then Mr. Grant cleared his throat and pulled out the second document. 2 months ago, a new will was signed. This version names John as the sole executor and beneficiary of the estate. My mom shot to her feet. "That's outrageous. He was in the hospital, barely coherent. There's no way he could have knowingly signed that." John leaned back, smiling smugly. "The documents are notarized. Dad was a sound mind. You can argue all you want, but legally this is airtight." I slammed Grandpa's letter on the desk. "And not anymore. He wrote to me, John. He said not to believe anyone who claimed he changed his mind. He wanted us all to share, not for you to hoard everything." Mr. Grant picked up the letter, reading it carefully. His brows furrowed. "This isn't legally binding, but it is evidence of intent. Combined with testimony about his condition, it could support a case of undue influence." For the first time, John's smirk faltered. "You can't prove anything. Letters like that mean nothing in court." "Then why do you look nervous?" Mia shot back. Marion leaned forward, her tone icy. "Jessica, sweetheart, you don't understand how dangerous it is to drag this out. The courts will drain you dry. Do you really want to spend years fighting? Your grandfather trusted John. You should too." I felt my whole body trembling with rage. "Don't call me sweetheart, and don't pretend this is about trust. This is about greed. Grandpa's words matter, even if you're desperate to bury them." Uncle Peter stood, his voice booming. We're contesting this will. I don't care how long it takes. Dad deserves justice, and these kids deserve the future he promised them. Mr. Grant nodded solemnly. Then that's the path forward, but be warned if cases like this get ugly, every detail of your family will be dragged into the light. I looked across the table at John, and for the first time, he wasn't smiling. His jaw was clenched, eyes cold. He knew we were backing down. The war had officially begun. The court battle started almost immediately. Uncle Peter filed a petition, and within a week, subpoenas were flying. Every phone call, every family dinner, every hospital visit, suddenly all of it was under a microscope. It was exhausting, but also strangely energizing. For once, John didn't get to control the narrative. Our first hearing was brutal. John showed up in a tailored suit flanked by a high-priced lawyer who was arrogance. Marion sat right behind him, her expression cold and unreadable. When the judge asked about Grandpa's state of mind in the hospital, John's lawyer launched into a rehearsed speech about clarity, final wishes, and responsible stewardship. But then Uncle Peter pulled out Grandpa's medical records. They showed he was heavily medicated, disoriented, and at times barely conscious. The judge's eyebrows shot up, and for the first time, I saw John's composure crack. After court in the hallway, he cornered me. His smile was gone, replaced with something darker. You're making a mistake, Jessica. Drop this now, and I might still give you something. Keep pushing, and you'll end up with nothing. I stared him straight in the eye. Grandpa didn't raise me to be a coward. I'm not afraid of you. He leaned in closer, voice low. You should be. I'll admit it, I shook all the way home. But that fear quickly turned into fire. If anything, his threat proved exactly why Grandpa never would have willingly handed everything over to him. As the case dragged on, more secrets came to light. May discovered through some financial records that John had been siphoning money from one of Grandpa's business accounts months before the new will was signed. Thousands of dollars labeled as consulting fees that went straight into John's personal account. When our lawyer presented the evidence in court, John's face went pale. His attorney stammered something about authorized expenses, but it was clear the judge wasn't buying it. At night, I couldn't stop thinking about Grandpa's letter. I read it over and over, drawing strength from his words. Fight for it, I trust you. It felt like he was right there beside me, urging me on. One evening, after a long day in court, I found my grandma sitting on the porch, clutching her rosary. She looked at me with tight eyes. Jessica, I'm proud of you. Your grandfather would be too, but you must be careful. John, he's not done. He's never been good at losing. Her warning rang in my ears later, that week when someone broke into Uncle Peter's garage. Nothing was stolen, but the place was trashed. Tools scattered, locks broken. It felt like a message. Peter didn't even hesitate. It's John. He's trying to scare us. The police couldn't prove anything, but deep down, we all knew. John wasn't just fighting in court anymore, he was trying to break us outside of it too. And if he was willing to go this far, what else was he capable of? The final hearing felt like the climax of a storm that had been brewing for months. The courtroom was packed, family and neighbors, even some of Grandpa's old friends who wanted to see justice served. The air buzzed with tension, every cough or shuffle of papers echoing too loudly. I sat beside my mom, clutching Grandpa's letter in my lap. Uncle Peter was calm but firm. Mia looked like she was ready to leap over the table if John said one more smug word, and Grandma whispered prayers under her breath. Across from us, John and Marion sat stiffly, their lawyer flipping through binders. The judge called the case to order. John's lawyer began with his usual speech about responsibility and final wishes. But this time, we were ready. Our lawyer stood and presented the financial records. Mia dug up proof of John funneling money from Grandpa's accounts. The courtroom murmured. The lawyer then brought up Grandpa's medical charts, showing he was sedated and mentally unfit during the supposed signing of the will. Finally, I was called to the stand. My hand shook as I held Grandpa's letter, but I forced myself to look straight at the judge. My grandfather wrote this to me. He said not to believe anyone who claimed he changed his mind. He said the land was mine, that he trusted me. He wanted all of us to share. He knew something wasn't right. The judge took the letter, read it carefully, then looked at John. Mr. Reynolds, do you deny pressuring your grandfather while he was in a hospital? John's jaw tightened. His lawyer tried to object, but the judge cut him off. And then, out of nowhere, Marion stood up. Enough, she said, her voice sharp but trembling. John pushed him. I helped. I thought it was for the best. I didn't think anyone would find out. The entire courtroom gasped. My mum grabbed my hand, and Uncle Peter let out a stunned laugh. John's head whipped toward his mother, fury in his eyes. What are you doing? He hissed. But it was too late. The judge had heard everything. When the gavel finally came down, the ruling was clear. The updated will was invalid. The estate reverted to the original version, divided fairly among the family. John's financial misconduct would be investigated separately. The relief hit me like a tidal wave. I cried openly, hugging Mira and Uncle Peter. Grandma whispered, "Thank you, God," over and over. John stormed out of the courtroom, his face twisted in rage, Marion trailing behind him in silence. For the first time in months, his smug confidence was gone. Later that night, we gathered at Grandma's house. It wasn't a celebration, exactly too much had been broken, but it felt like closure. I read Grandpa's letter one more time, and this time, I wasn't crying from grief. I was crying because we honored his trust. John thought he could steal everything. But in the end, all he did was expose himself for what he truly was. And I knew Grandpa would have been proud.